Advanced Combat Mechanics. Hey guys, Stinky Dinky here. Today, we'll be looking at some advanced melee mechanics, and we will go over some basic and some not so basic stuff considering melee combat versus a raid boss. There's so much to unpack here that it's really hard to choose where to begin. If you ever encountered a raid boss as a melee class, you've surely noted that some of your attacks hit, while others fail to hit in one way or the other. You might have noticed some misses, some dodges, and if you were attacking the boss from the front, there might have been some blocks and parries. Those with an even keener eye might have noticed that boss mobs tend to have their level marked with a skull, and the tooltip would read level ? So what is actually happening here? To demystify this, first we will look at exactly what happens, and then we will delve into why it happens and what order do the checks happen. For this table, we will assume we have +0 on our hit gear, 15% crit chance, and we are wielding a two-handed weapon, while a boss mob with its level reading ? is considered a level 63 mob. First of all of the attacks might just straight up miss, and there is a 9% chance of that happening. After that, the mob has a 6.5% chance to dodge any of your attacks. There is also a 14% chance for that mob to parry your attack. There will be an additional 5% for the mob to block your attacks. Further on, there will be a check to see if the attack crits, which will happen 10% of the time. And the rest of the attacks will be regular hits, 40% of which will be glancing blows. So in the end, only 15.5 of all of your attacks will be regular white damage. So let's take it one step at a time and explain what we can do to mitigate each check and what is actually going on. Starting with the miss check. For a mob that is your level, you only have 5% chance to miss. However, this chance rises with every additional level of the mob by 1%, up to a total of 8% for a mob that is 3 levels above you. There is also an additional 1% hit penalty if the target's defense rating is over 10 rating higher than your weapon skill. A level 63 boss will have a defense rating of 315, while a level 60 player's weapon skill is naturally capped at 300, making the difference 15 points. Thus, the player incurs the extra hit penalty. This is obviously mitigated with plus weapon skill, but we will go into that a bit later. So, for a mob that's 3 levels above you, there is a 9% chance for you to miss, unless you're dual wielding, which has a hit penalty of an additional 19%, totaling in 28% of your attacks missing. Next up is the dodge check. A mob of your level will have a dodge chance of 5%, increasing by 0.5% per level, up to 6.5 for a mob 3 levels higher than yourself. This dodge is unavoidable, and mobs can dodge attacks even if you attack them from the sides or the back, so it's better to move on to parry and block. A mob of your level has a 5% chance to block your attacks and a 5% chance to parry, with the chance of blocking rising by an insignificant amount of 0.1 for each level, but the parry chance rises erratically to 6% for +1 level, 7% for +2 levels, and up to an astonishing 14% for +3 levels. Fortunately, these checks can be avoided by correct positioning, thus you will often see DPS players behind or at the sides of a target. So here we come to critical hits. We have stated that our critical chance is 15%, but we can see only 10% of our attacks crit. How can that be? Well, Let me tell you a story called critical hit suppression and critical hit aura suppression. Yes, it's real, and yes, it will affect you. Here's how it goes. For each level above you that the target is, you incur a 1% crit suppression due to the difference in defense. There is also a 1.8% critical aura suppression measured on mobs 3 levels above you. What is a crit aura, you might ask? Well, it is any form of crit that is stated as plus percentage to crit. For example, the warrior's cruelty talent or the mask of the unforgiven. This aura does not apply to crit gained naturally through agility, however, by the time you encounter a raid boss, you will have enough crit from gear, talents, potions, and other stuff for this to take effect. And that finally leads us to the glancing blows and regular hits. So what are these fabled glancing blows? These attacks are just like your regular attacks, except that they suffer a flat damage penalty determined by the difference in your weapon skill and the target's defense skill. So for a level difference of 0, meaning the mob is same level as you, the chance of you getting a glancing blow is 10%, with the penalty being 5%. For a level difference of 1, the chance to get a glancing blow is 20%. However, the penalty is still 5%. For a level difference of 2, the chance is 30% and the penalty is 15%. And finally, for the level difference of 3, the chance of you getting a glancing blow is 40% and its damage penalty being a whole 35%. So what can we do about this? We have to make it perfectly clear that the chance of an attack glancing is completely unavoidable. However, we can influence the damage penalty we get on our attacks. Weapon skill comes into play here with mitigating not only your glancing damage penalty but also increasing your hit rating. If we observe the following chart, we can see how it all correlates. At 300 weapon skill, we would look at the top of the chart, with the difference compared to the mob's defense and rating being 15, as we have explained. At the first major jump we can see happens is when we increase our weapon skill by 5 points, which decreases our damage penalty to just 15% and lowers our hit cap to 6%, removing the 1% miss penalty that we went over earlier. The next significant number is at 8 points of difference, since the fabled Edgemaster's gauntlets increased bladed weapon skills by 7. And we can note that the effective cap is at plus 8 weapon skill, with the diminishing return racking up significantly if we push it higher. So in the end, we found out that those silly ratios that increase weapon skill are turning out to be quite broken and overpowered, and the items that have plus weapon skill on them are quite in demand. Let's take a look at some significant sources of plus weapon skill and how to combine them. First of all, there are the human and orc ratios, increasing maces and swords, and on the other hand, axes weapon skill by 5. There is also weapon expertise in the rogue combat tree, increasing swords, fists and dagger weapons by 5. Furthermore, some notable items would be Edgemaster's Handguards, which increases axes, swords and daggers by 7, and we do have to state that this only applies to one-handed weapons. Aged core leather gloves and Mugger's belt, both increasing dagger skill by 5, and Maladath, which increases sword skill by 4. There are also a few other items increasing weapon skill, and your guild should plan to hand these out accordingly to get the players to weapon cap and not overcap them. And in the end, there's just one more advanced combat mechanic that I would like you to be aware of, and that is Parry Haste. What is Parry Haste? Parry Haste is a percentage haste that you or the mob receives to your next attack after a successful parry. If we look at these graphs for a player and an NPC, we will see that they're identical and they read as following. If you, or the mob, have more than 50% of your weapon swing still to complete, you will receive 40% haste after a parry. If it's lower than 50%, you will receive a lower portion of that haste, scaling with the remaining time of your weapon swing down to 20%. So parry more to strike faster. If you ever thought, wow, this mob just struck me again, but even faster, probably parried, and now you know why it happened. Thank you all for paying attention and listening to my take on some advanced combat mechanics. Next time we might visit the dreadful dread tables and how that all works, and until then, Stinkfist loves you. I have to say that if you found this video helpful or enjoyed it in any way, I would ask you to share it, leave a comment with your thoughts, or perhaps even consider subscribing to my channel. That'll be all from me today. Have a good one.